Over thousands of years, the human species of Earth grew from primitive hunter-gatherers struggling for survival to competing civilizations plundering the planet for resources. Although many suffered throughout the years of tribalism and as the population focused on attaining material wealth, conflict and competition also led to great technological advancements, achieving spaceflight by the year 1961 of the Common Era. Yet the 20th and 21st centuries also saw war, poverty, famine, and disease, with even the wealthiest nations plagued with massive inequality between rich and poor. As a result, the people of Earth fought countless minor conflicts as well as 2 world wars, a eugenics war, and a 3rd world war fought with nuclear weapons. This was then followed by the post-atomic horror, in which thousands affected by radiation were purged by radical terrorists seeking to cast out the impure. Though hundreds of millions were killed and much of their infrastructure lost, scientists and scholars continued to advance human knowledge so that by 2063, Dr. Zephram Cochrane invented warp technology, boarding his vessel the Phoenix to soar through space at light speed. Detecting the use of a warp drive, Earth was soon visited by a peaceful alien species from a relatively nearby system who recognized this achievement as the last necessary step to initiate first contact and introduce them to the larger galactic community. Evolving from common ancestors who traveled across the galaxy seeding worlds with their DNA, many of the species humanity encountered were bipedal humanoids who appeared physically similar but differed greatly in their cultures and internal biology. Once a violent and aggressive people, the Vulcan species achieved peace and stability through their powerful mental abilities, learning to suppress emotion and use logic to make decisions. Though outsiders often mocked Vulcans for being boring, cautious, and slow to change, their new attitudes brought them centuries of peace, great technological advancements, and a unified government who saw Earth as a potential ally rather than a target for conquest. Learning they were not alone in the universe, first contact led humanity into a scientific, political, and cultural revolution with hunger, poverty, homelessness, and inequality eliminated in less than a century. In 2103, Earth colonized Mars, and in 2150, the nations of the world unified into a single government. As this transition took place, a new world economy formed, with currency eliminated in favor of an egalitarian system where everyone's basic needs were met by the government, allowing them to focus exclusively on their passions and desires. With the need for material wealth gone, the species became less greedy and more open-minded to new ideas, ushering in a new age of peace and cooperation. Yet even before the nations of the world completed their unification, Starfleet Command was formed and given charge of the planet's military and scientific research, aided by Starfleet intelligence, who gathered information from neighbors, allies, and enemies. However, the efforts of their intelligence service were not always enough, and so they relied on Section 31, a rogue espionage agency who did not officially exist, and so were able to work outside the confines of the law. With the population thriving and Starfleet continuing to improve warp technology, the United Earth government was eager to explore beyond the solar system, but the Vulcans exerted their influence to delay deep space missions, believing they were not yet mature as a species and ready to face the dangers awaiting them. Hoping to slow their progress, Vulcans held back much of their more advanced technology, with their ships able to reach Warp 7, while humans remained at Warp 5. Yet by 2151, humanity could no longer be held back, launching the Enterprise NX-01 on a diplomatic mission to the Klingon Empire, after which they set out to explore uncharted space and make first contact with alien lifeforms. Led by the famous Captain Jonathan Archer, the voyage of the first Enterprise crew was fraught with mistakes, setbacks, and perilous challenges, but their continued perseverance allowed Earth's reputation and influence to grow rapidly as Captain Archer became a conduit for peace between the Vulcans, Andorians, and Tellarites, enemy species who previously spent years embroiled in terrible conflicts. On Vulcan, the Enterprise crew exposed the corruption of their government, the High Command, allowing for new, more open-minded leadership to emerge. For the Andorians, Archer brought them peace both with the Vulcans as well as the Tellarites, even revealing a sinister plot to turn them against each other, perpetrated by the Romulan Star Empire, a nearby superpower who feared the growing friendship between these planets. Taking advantage of the trust and respect they earned, Earth held a conference in 2155 to discuss the formation of a coalition of planets to defend against larger threats like the Romulans. Among the worlds represented, there was Earth, Vulcan, Andor, Tellar, Denobula, Rigel, Corridan, and many others, but the talks were disrupted by a group of xenophobic human terrorists threatening to destroy Starfleet headquarters. Although they were swiftly defeated, the conference had to be postponed, and the negative impression left on visiting species threatened to derail the idea of an alliance. But only 1 year later, the original 4 worlds were brought back together when the Romulan Star Empire invaded Earth space. Lasting until 2160, the Earth-Romulan War should have easily been won by the superpower, yet humanity did not stand alone, with the Vulcans, Andorians, and Tellarites joining the conflict in their defense. Through their combined efforts, the Alliance won the critical Battle of Charon, achieving a victory which proved the benefits of cooperation, allowing for the formation of the United Federation of Planets in 2161 to be governed by an elected president and council comprised of representatives from member worlds. Though most of the great powers that emerged in the Alpha and Beta quadrants were led by a single species that accrued power by destroying or subjugating their neighbors, member worlds of the Federation joined voluntarily and remained semi-autonomous, while also electing representatives to speak in the central government. Though they encouraged the idea of multiculturalism, all were required to operate within the confines of the Federation Charter and Constitution based on the enlightened principles of equality, liberty, and peaceful coexistence. Acting as head of state and government, the democratically elected president was in charge of the military and foreign policy, while the Federation Council passed, revoked, and amended laws, and the Supreme Court ensured the Constitution was upheld. Though the government was filled with people of varying species, they were based out of Earth, the planet which was the main driving force behind the Alliance. When a new planet or system was being considered for membership, an investigation was launched to ensure they met certain conditions. These requirements included having warp technology, a unified government, no slavery or caste system, and a culture compatible with the values expressed in the Federation Charter. After the defeat of the Star Empire in 2160 and the establishment of the neutral zone border, the Romulans retreated into their space and remained in isolation for nearly a century, allowing the Federation to expand rapidly. Yet as this growth continued into the 23rd century, they came under threat from a species of warriors whose entire culture revolved around attaining honor through combat and conquest. A brash and aggressive people, conflict became inevitable when the Klingon Empire learned that the Federation was claiming systems near their borders. After a series of small skirmishes, the First Federation-Klingon War erupted from 2256 to 2257. Although the great houses of the Klingon Empire were usually busy plotting against each other for power, they now united to face the threat of the Federation, achieving many brutal military victories. Yet just as the Klingons were poised to win the war, Starfleet launched a critical mission to detonate a bomb within a volcano on the Klingon homeworld of Konos, allowing an officer to force the enemy into making peace. Unfortunately, tensions remained high, and within a decade, the two powers were once again on the verge of war, with the Klingons demanding the Federation withdraw from a number of planets near their border. Despite wanting to fight, the war was averted by the interference of the Organians, powerful non-corporeal beings who negotiated the Treaty of Organia, establishing a border and neutral zone. Even so, Federation-Klingon relations remained poor over the years, and almost certainly would have led to another war, if not for the terrible tragedy of 2293, when overmining caused the Klingon moon of Praxis to explode. This catastrophe forced the Empire to divert significant resources to deal with the environmental aftermath, and so with their attention on other matters, the government agreed to participate in formal negotiations with the Federation, resulting in the Khitomer Accords, which at last established a long-term treaty between them, and served as the first major step towards what eventually became an alliance that brought decades of peace and stability to the Alpha and Beta quadrants. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Sith Ben24, Average Soul, Barachado, and Barium the Soft Bastard Beesbury. If you'd like to help the channel, go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can sign up and gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and access the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.